Another of the committees of the Welfare and Safety of the Racehorse Summit is Education and Licensing. And to make that report, we have Paul Bollinger. He is a North Dakota attorney who thought it would be warmer here than it was at home, but anyway. He serves as the Executive Vice President of the Association of Racing Commissioners International. Obviously, in the final analysis, the racing commissions hold the key to whether many things that we're trying to get done with the summit actually are implemented. So it's very exciting to have Mr. Bollinger on the team. Paul?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for that introduction. Again, my name is Paul Bollinger, and I'm the Vice President of the Racing Commissioners International. I will be speaking today with my hat on as the chair of the WSS Education and Licensing Committee. However, if there's any subject upon which regulators and the industry should be able to get together on integrity, that one issue should be the key component of the horse and the safety of our beautiful equine competitor. So there should be no divergence in our common goals. That leads us to the committee responsibilities, and if you can take anything from the rest of what I say, you can basically not look at the rest of my slides. And the premise is simply this, is what can we do from an education and licensing perspective which will raise the quality of horsemanship and the racing to help with the equine competitor. Basically, how do we raise the level of horsemanship to protect our horses? That's what we're going to try to do, which brings us to the committee responsibilities. And we move up to number one, which is develop uniform examination for first-time trainers. This is not meant to be a tricky, some of us are lawyers, some of us are doctors. We had to take a multi-state responsibility or a multi-state test. Some could argue that was very tricky. That's not the purpose of this test. The purpose of this test is to open a dialogue between the examiner, that being the steward, or the horseman's representative, but obviously bringing the regulator in contact with that trainer, and make sure that that trainer has the requisite skills to take care of the horses of which he's in charge, or he or she is in charge of. And that, simply put, is what the development of the uniform examination is. The second is the proposed model rules requiring continuing education for license renewal of trainers. We're going to get into that a little bit in a few more slides, but this has been covered. Third and fourth, which is a creation of the website for research and articles on information on horse health and soundness, along with bi-monthly horseman updates. I'd like to thank Dan, his staff of Angela and Kristen. They've done a wonderful job in getting that done, and those are now available. Lastly, develop an educational studies guide for the National Trainers Test through Groom Elite. That is something that we're working on. The committee members, Bob Curran, Robert Duncan, Ed Halperin, John Harris, you can go through the list, and you can see that we've got a broad cross-section of the brightest minds in the industry. A couple things I'd like to point out. First is Richard Mandela, who I think undisputably is one of the best trainers in North America, looked at our test and said, "I'm not sure I could pass this test." The fun part is I think we both agree that that's a good thing for right now, because there are ways to work through that. And Richard said I could say that to you, so I don't feel too bad about it. Secondly, I'd really like to point out and acknowledge specifically Kathy McNeely and Dr. Reed McClellan in putting together the National Trainers Test. It was 180 questions. It was they did the lion's share of the work. This was it's called the grunt work in law. The guys in the back room, they got it done. And I'd really like to extend my thanks to them for taking on that task and helping us all. Next is the uniform trainers test. You can take a look at the slide, see that it's fairly comprehensive. It's kind of a no-brainer. You look at the top, obviously 180 questions is a lot, but you look at rules of racing medication, that falls under the characterization of duh. However, if you get down to horse health, this is where we've elevated this into the national realm, into the uniformity, and bringing that nexus between what the regulators are looking for and that new person applying for a trainer's license. The test is broken down on the screen. However, I've had feedback from 13 jurisdictions now, both American and Canadian, and the vast majority are thankful that they have such a tool for implementing this test and the complexity of the parts of the test. You will notice that in addition, to everything, the obvious emphasis on horse health, but also the barn test, which is in the middle. It was felt very strongly by all members of the committee, and especially by the trainers, that this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you can really find out whether he or she or trainer knows what they're talking about. And again, this is a way to open that dialogue between them to see whether they possess the requisite skills. If I've received any critical comments about the test, it's been that the test focuses maybe a bit more on some veterinary questions. However, it was our goal in putting together this test that the early diagnosis, the ability of that trainer to notice these types of things is what's ultimately going to lead to the better part of horsemanship. If you can stop it at that level, you stop it way before it reaches the track. The next slide is simply one of the parts of the test. You can see what it's attempting to do is lead to some objectivity to a very subjective, what in many states has been a very subjective test. This is a way to make it more of an objective way to assess the talents and skills of the people that are ultimately going to be licensed. Because you realize once a person gets licensed, they tend to stay licensed. So we want to raise that bar. And again, as I say, this is a frontline defense in the goal of equine safety. The next is experience and educational requirements. The model rule being proposed in Austin, which will be in a week, is basically broken down into three parts. The first is the implementation of a national trainer's test. The second will be the experience and educational requirements. We had a caveat in there to make sure that we're in compliance with the Disabilities Act, which I thank Dan again for running for us. And the third part is the continuing education, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I did not get, in my last telephone conference call with the Model Rules Committee, I did not get a lot of kickback on the National Trainers Test being a great idea and the experience and the educational requirements. And again, the committee felt strongly that if someone's going to be bringing horses to the track or they're going to take on the job as a trainer, they should be able to have someone vouch for them, or they should have some other comparable experience. So again, there was unanimity amongst the committee on this issue. The next slide is the model rule for continuing education. I'll give you just a second to read it, beginning no later than January 1, basically. Trainers are going to have to complete 4 hours of continuing education. Now, those of us who are doctors or lawyers, we're pretty familiar with this procedure. I tend to sit in the back row. As a matter of fact, the first continuing education class that I went to, I remember my partner asked, how did I how did I like the continuing education course? And I said, I shot a 41 on the front nine. So the challenge, of course, is to make these things, something that are worthwhile, and they're going to be required. Now, of all of the three things that I told you that we were looking at, I see the most kickback when I meet in Austin in a week. I'm putting my regulator hat back on. When we sit at the model rules, this is going to get kicked around a bit. There's going to be some problems with implementation. We're going to have problems. Well, let's face it. It all comes down to money. Do we have adequate staffing? Are we prepared to do this? Can we? Because we're not going to pass something that is there for show. If we're going to put it in there as a model rule for the entire country, it needs to be able to be enforced. We may have to put in another field in our database so that the regulators can look up and see whether that trainer has actually received the continuing education that he or she is representing that they've received. So there are many issues that are going to be looked at, so I can't promise you this is a done deal. But with my WSS Education and Licensing Committee hat, I'm going to go as a liaison and say this is a good idea. Let's try to flesh it out, and there may be some give and take going back and forth on this issue. I just think it's for those of you unfamiliar with our model rules, how it works. And I want to give you an example of how it works. Coming out of the 2006 summit, Mitch Taylor did some absolutely fabulous work. And I believe that was in October of 2006. And through, again, a series of just absolutely sound science and showing what's happening to the conformation and the injury to the front hoof, he was able to show that front toe grabs were absolutely destructive. Within a matter of 5 months, Mitch Taylor's information was given to Bill Kastner, who came to an ARCI meeting, and within one meeting, we had a model rule that now outlaws toe grabs. So it is, I think, just a glowing example of when the industry gets together, proves through good science, and comes with, with a pure intent, and well-meaning regulators will accept that and go through it with the same sort of analysis and say, yeah, that makes sense. We can get this done. Let's get it done. And within 5 months, it did. And I'm proud of that, both from a WSS standpoint and also from an ARCI standpoint from the regulators. This brings us to the Welfare and Safety Summit website. This has been done. In regard, again, when I said we did not want this test to be tricky, that was absolutely not the intent. We wanted to raise the bar, but we didn't want the bar to be so high that people couldn't jump over it. All we wanted to do was set the bar high and then give people the tools so that, okay, you've got information that you can go out there and pass this test. That's what this is. So if you look at educational resources, you've got abstracts, magazine articles, PowerPoints, videos, seminars, newsletters. So if anyone says they can't pass this test, they're not working hard enough. And we've got caveats and enough room so that I don't think well-intentioned people with requisite skills are going to slip through the cracks. We've got a way to get them in if they can do it. The next the next screenshot is simply the link to the web page, which again would move to the next slide, which links to the Horseman's Update. These links will link you to the trainer information, so a trainer can go to this website, link to the previous website, link to this website, and automatically bring up topics in 2007, shoeing and hoof care, effects of pre-existing injuries. I was particularly interested in the nutrition one. Obviously, horses can eat a lot more fat than humans can, and I tried that out on my wife. So far, it hasn't met with great success, but I know I'm not very fast, so I was offering that perhaps this would be a way to make me a bit quicker. We're also currently working on a bi-monthly newsletter. and these will obviously deal with the topical and necessary issues for trainers to pass this test and to keep current. And these are hopefully going to be they're presently being distributed to tracks, horsemen's associations, and direct email. You can take a look. You probably can't read the small print, but that's basically what the newsletters look like in their present form, and they are very informative. They're scientifically based, and probably most likely will be in some part peer reviewed. So they're good science. This came a lot from what we heard from Scott Waterman from the RMTC, which was so alarming. When you say to a trainer, why are you using black ice, other than the very catchy name? And there was so much anecdotal evidence on the backside. Well, that trainer's using it and he's winning. Well, but there's no science behind it, and that's the goal. It's to get rid of this sort of anecdotal, bad science information that floats around the backside. It's not doing our horses any good. We want to get to some real science, and I think this is a really good first step, and obviously a continuing step. Which leads us to our future considerations. You can see what remains on our plate along with these issues. There will also be some issues that come today and tomorrow. Please feel free to come up to me or any member of our committee and tell us what you see needs to be done. We're looking at a uniform trainer's guide, uniform licensing for jockeys, exercise riders, and furriers, continuing education, and then e-letters to the Horseman's Update. And finally, I just thought we didn't have enough acronyms already to befuddle legislators when I speak in front of them, and as my cohorts do. We have an NTRA. I thought we really should have a National Racehorse Trainers Association, so we had an NRTA. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for your time and patience in listening to me, and thank all the committee members for all the hard work they did. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bollinger.